Hello, everybody. I'd like to say welcome back. And if this is your first time watching me, I would just like to say welcome. All right. My name is Tom Bafoya, and I'm just here to speak about how to chase your purpose and how to do so with passion and drive. And everything is coming from a godly perspective because I'm a Christian. Now, if you're not a Christian, every time I say God, you can go ahead and replace that with the universe because at the end of the day, I believe God is the universe and He is the end all be all, the Alpha and the Omega. All right, let's get into it. So today's video is about whenever God calls you to chase your purpose, whenever there's something that you feel like you need to be doing, a calling, or even a destiny, sometimes you're not sure. And I used to have this issue with myself as well. I kind of still have it every now and then to where God will tell me to do something, but I'm just like, is that really God telling me what to do? Or it's just, me trying to go with my own desires, especially if it's something I wasn't thinking of or something that's scary. Now, fear is a very big part of us chasing our destiny. Sometimes we feel like our destiny is too big, our calling is too big. We feel like we're not ready for it. We're not the right people. Now, what I want to say is the topic today is whenever God has called you and you need confirmation, it's okay to ask Him. It's okay to say, hey, God, I need you to show me a sign, and make the sign so easy to where I cannot deny that, hey, you are the one who is calling me to go ahead and do what it is that you are calling me to do, and I'm not just imagining things. So we're gonna read about the story of Gideon, and that's come from the book of Judges. Judges is the 7th book in the Bible, in between Joshua and I want to say Ruth, but don't quote me on that. I know there's a 7th book in the Bible though. So Judges chapter 6 is where the story of Gideon starts. Now, just a quick little synopsis about the story of Gideon. Now, Gideon was from one of the lowest tribes at that time of the people of Israel. And in that tribe, he was considered like the weakest link. I mean, he didn't have any ambition. He was like one of the weakest ones. And then whenever God found him, at that time, the people of Israel were being terrorized by the Midianites, who were bigger, stronger people than they were. And so when God found Gideon to call him, he was in the cave and he was hiding. And God came to him and said, hey, this is God. I'm calling you for a purpose, and that purpose is you're going to be the ones to deliver your people from the hand of the Midianites. And, this dude is in a cave hiding. There is nothing going on. He's from the weakest tribe, and in that weakest tribe, he's one of the weakest links. So he's thinking like, who is this person coming to tell me like, hey, I'm going to save the people of Israel? Now, that's how we feel sometimes, Maybe God finds us in a dark place. We're coming from a bad relationship. Our finances are down. We don't have money. We're taking the bus to and back from work, or just any other circumstance you can think of that makes you feel like you're inadequate. You don't have the skills necessary, and you're just like, God is calling me to do this huge, enormous thing. How can that be God if I'm in this place right now? And that's the same thing that Gideon has. So in that moment, we experience fear because it's just like, how am I supposed to do all these things when from what I see around me, nothing's happening? And that's a very legit fear to have. So whenever Gideon experienced that, Gideon pretty much said, this is Gideon in Judges chapter 6, and starting from verse 17, Gideon said, now I have found favor in your eyes, give me a sign that it is you really talking to me, that it is you. He's talking to God. Now you have to come to God with audacity, because if he's asking you to go and do this huge thing, fulfill this huge destiny that you feel like is way out of your comfort zone, you have to bring that same boldness to God. Like, hey, God, if you're bold enough to ask me to do this, then I can be bold enough to ask you to say, hey, I want to make sure this is you. So God said, okay, I want you to go ahead and prepare a little altar, put some meat on there, put some bread on there. And then when Gideon did that, guess what? God touched it and the whole thing came on fire. And then just like that, God disappeared. Now, was he doing that to fear Gideon? I mean, you can kind of say he was, because it's like he wanted to put the fear of God in him. But I think he was just giving Gideon his answer in such a powerful way that Gideon could not ignore, like, okay, this is really God talking to me. And you can see that because after that happened, Gideon was like, oh crap, that was really God who was talking to me. So now he felt more ready. So he left the cave and went to go ahead and try to save his people. But that wasn't the end of it, right? Because sometimes we will start on our journey. We'll start going towards what it is that we need to do. But then we start to see little roadblocks, little things, or people start to put words in our ear like, man, are you sure you're supposed to be this inspirational speaker? Are you sure you're supposed to be that famous actor? Are you sure you're supposed to be this person who leads all these people to God? Are you sure you're supposed to be this person who goes out there like an activist? We become fearful, people get in our ear. And the same thing happened to Gideon, because after he had saw the initial sign of God, we always forget what it is that God did in the past to show that it was him who called us. So Gideon, once again, being bold. Now this is in verse 36. Don't forget, it's Judges chapter 6, this is verse 36. And Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel by my hand as you have promised, look, I will place a wood fleece on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece and the ground is dry, then I will know that you will save Israel by my hand. Now Gideon has answered the call, but in the midst of it, he's becoming fearful and timid, and he's unsure about, is it really God who's calling him to do this? So he was bold enough. He said, look, God, I'm going to put this fleece on the ground tomorrow. If the fleece is wet and the ground is dry, then I know you are going to use me for this calling. And you can do the same thing. I don't know what a sign is for what a sign could be from God to you, but you know how you're going to talk to God. That's why also, side note, it's important to really solidify your relationship with God or the universe, however you want to see it, to be so in tune with those energies, with that communication back and forth, that when you ask for that sign, it comes through the channel to where you can hear it. If somebody calls you and you're on the wrong line, you're not gonna be able to receive that call. Let's use like the walkie-talkie analogy. If you tune in on the wrong channel, that frequency is coming through, but if you're not in tune with the other person trying to communicate to you, you will not get that answer that you're looking for, even though the answer is coming through. So Gideon was in tune, so he asked God about this, and guess what? The very next day, that's exactly what happened. The fleece was wet, but the ground was dry. Now, that's something that will not happen if there's dew outside, or if it rains outside. Anything outside is going to be wet completely, or if there's dew, it's going to be damp, and the ground will be damp as well. You don't have the opposite of that going on. That was surely a sign from God, because guess what? That is what Gideon asked for. So whatever sign you ask for from God, even when you're unsure about His calling in your life and something tremendous out of your range that you're supposed to do, ask for those signs and ask God to make it clear. But this is the best part, and I absolutely love this. After that, Gideon said to God, this is verse 39, do not be angry with me. Let me just make one more request. I mean, this guy is bold. First, he asked God to burn the offering. He didn't ask God to burn the offering, but he asked for a sign. God burned the offering. Then he said, okay, I'm going to put this fleece outside, make it wet, but the ground dry. And now he said, God, just to make sure that it's you, it wasn't some, coincidence, I need that to be flipped in the morning. So now I need the fleece to be dry, and I need the ground to be wet. I don't know, I've been bold in my life, but to ask God 3 times, but it's such a huge task that guess what? I feel like Gideon had the right to do that. And you have the right to do that as well. If God's calling you to do something that's going to make you super uncomfortable, put your life at risk, you have the right to say, look, God, I want to trust you, but I need to know that I'm moving in the right direction. Of course, we're going to have faith and trust in God and things like that, but sometimes we forget that, if I ask God for a sign, then it means I'm not trusting Him. No, I am trusting Him, but I want to make sure that I'm communicating with the real person. I'm communicating right through God, and I'm on the right channel with the signals and signs that are coming through. So guess what? God went ahead and did that same thing like Gideon asked. So the very next day, the fleece was dry, and then the ground was wet. And so, blah, 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 blah. We go to verse 40. That night God did so. Only the fleece was dry and all the ground was covered with dew. And Gideon at that point, he could not deny, okay, God is going to use me. This person who was found hiding in the cave, this person who's from the weakest tribe, you probably from the, people call you lame, or people say you're not capable, you're not talented, you're not strong enough, you're not tall enough. Whatever it is that these things you feel like do not make you capable enough to fulfill that destiny. Gideon was all these things, but God still used him, and He asked for those signs. Now, I'll give you my own personal testimony. This is my 3rd video of doing this, but it's been on my heart for about, I want to say 5 or 6 months since the pandemic started back in March. God's like, hey, you have time on your hands. Go ahead and start making these videos. People like when you talk about, inspirational things and stuff like that. But I was afraid. I was like, God, I'm not this inspirational speaker. I'm not this motivational speaker. I'm not a quote unquote minister. So how am I supposed to do this? So I didn't listen. but it kept pressing and pressing on my heart. So about, I want to say a couple weeks ago, I was like, okay, you know what? Actually, it was like a week ago. And I think about it. I was like, you know what, God, if this is you who's telling me to do this, when I wake up tomorrow morning, I want to see 2 confirmations from you. This is when I just read the story of Gideon. I was like, I need 2 confirmations from you, back to back, and make it so clear that guess what? I'm not going to be able to ignore this. First thing that happens when I wake up that morning, I get on Instagram, and one of the first posts that one of the ladies that I follow posted on there, she was just like, God, don't be afraid of using your answers. Don't be afraid of putting out the answers God gave you publicly to the world, because you don't know how your answers could be the answers to somebody else's question that they're asking God. Now, obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but that was the gist of it. Essentially, she was saying, whenever you feel like you have something to say about how God answered a prayer for you, about maybe a disease you were struggling with, an addiction, a bad relationship, finances, situation in your family, whatever that answer that you receive, don't be afraid to share that with the world, because guess what? That could be how somebody else gets the answer that they're looking from God. That was the first thing. And then I was like, okay, that's pretty good, God. I have put you to the test, and you have responded with the very first thing I see. But I was like, okay, you know what? I need another confirmation. And at this point, I had only read like the first part, the first half of Judges chapter 6. So I had seen how he had said, okay, God, if you're the one who calling me, then show me a sign, and God heard the offering. But then my next devotion that day went straight towards the second half of the story of Gideon, where it was just like, he will go ahead and show you a sign to reveal unto you those things. And also to add on to that, God gave me an extra one. I believe that was based on the story of Joseph, where it says God uses our pain to bless others. So if you've went to a bad situation, like I said, those different things, family, maybe abuse in your past, all of those things you can use to speak to other people and be a blessing unto those people. So those were the confirmations that I needed, and that's how I started doing this video. So to wrap it all up, I want to say, do not be afraid to ask God, like, hey God, if this is you who is calling me for this enormous destiny, this huge calling, this astronomical purpose that I don't feel equipped for, then I need you to show me a sign, because I'm stepping out in faith. Because if sometimes God doesn't show us a sign, we don't step out because of fear. And even if we step out in fear. And that's only going to get you so far. You have to step out in faith. But once you get that confirmation from somebody, like, whenever like the generals need to push the nuclear codes in and everything, they need like a 2-step confirmation from the president, because once they push that button, there's no going back. Treat your calling that same way. Like, there is no going back from this, God. So I need confirmation from you to let me know that, hey, this is what it is you have called me to do. And as I step out in faith, you are going to bless it. All right. Once again, my name is Tom Bafoya, and I want to say thank you so much for joining me. I hope this message has been a blessing, and I look forward to talking to you next time. All right. Until then, please stay blessed, keep your relationship close to God, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.